Hello everyone, welcome to the first PUC online classes of Gopalswamy PU College, Mysore. I am Suma, economics lecturer. In today's session of the first PUC online learning, let us discuss about the project oriented questions of the chapters of Indian economic development, that is part B of the economics of the first PUC. Under this Indian economic development, we have project oriented questions for 5 marks each in only 4 chapters. They are the third chapter, that is economic reforms since 1991, that is the liberalization, privatization and globalization. And then in the fourth lesson, that is about poverty, and in the seventh lesson, that is employment, and it is there in the eighth lesson of infrastructure. So now let us see what are these project oriented questions. In your question paper, the part E section contains the questions related to these project oriented questions. So all the questions of part A and part B lessons of these project oriented questions are should be learnt by the students, and among them only 3 are asked and you should write only 2. So the 2 questions that you answer for these project oriented questions belong to 5 marks each. So totally the part E of the question paper is for 10 marks and you should answer both. So here in the third lesson of Indian economic development, we have the lesson of economic reforms since 1991, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. So here the question is like this in this lesson, that is give suitable examples for the following. So they have given only the question. This is the answer that I have written. So only questions are given to you and these are asked in the question paper. That is name of the product is mentioned in the paper. Corresponding to that, you should write name of the foreign company of these products. Any of the foreign company that is selling its products in India. So now let us see why should we need about it. What is the need to know about the products that are sold in India by a foreign company? Because in this lesson we learn about the new economic reforms since 1991, that is liberalization, globalization and privatization. So after signing the agreement of general agreement on trade and tariffs, we came to the agreement of this economic reforms. So since 1991 we accepted the liberalization, privatization and globalization policies and we accepted the open economy pattern. So till then we were closed economy and our exports and imports were very few, and after this our exports have improved. So with the globalization, now you can find the products of any of the country from any of the continent available in other countries and other parts of the continent. So see, with the help of this privatization, liberalization and globalization, now we can have access towards the products that are produced from all the other corners of the countries and continents. So we are now accessible by everyone and all the other countries' products are accessible by us also. So for that, now what are the products that are available in our country which belong to the foreign companies? That foreign companies, let us know now. So here they have given you only few examples, that is biscuits, shoes, computers, cars, TV and refrigerators and stationery. So here they have asked you to mention the foreign company brands that are available in India, and now we are learning about it. But there are few more other products, many of the other products which are being supplied from foreign companies to India. Now let us see what are all the products that are included here and the foreign companies that are supplying these products in our country. So the first one is about biscuits. So it is a snacks or it is a refreshment. So the Britannia Company Limited is the major foreign company that is supplying the biscuits to our population. So it is supplied to our country, and Britannia company's product is, you all know that Marie biscuit is there. When you are writing about biscuits, if you write Britannia Company Limited, then you will get 1 mark. The next one is shoes. We have, for shoes, we have Nike company, that is the popular foreign brand that is sold in our country. Third one is computers. So computers, for that we have lots of foreign companies who are supplying the systems and the accessories. So for that you can write Dell or Lenovo or HP, that is Hewlett and Packard. Next one is cars. So in India you can see many of the foreign branded cars, and foreign companies are launching their products in this country and people are willing to buy them. So Audi company is there, then BMW, that is Bavarian Motor Works. So BMW company is available, and Tesla company, latest electric cars are available. The world's richest person, Elon Musk, is the owner of this Tesla company, and he is launching the cars, Tesla cars, in our country also, so that the people can get the facility of electric cars in this country. The next one is TV and refrigerators. So TV and refrigerators are the home appliances. Here we have the brands like Samsung, Sony, Philips. All these are the good old well established foreign companies that are selling their products in our country. The last one is stationery. So stationery includes all types of the shelves, the boards, and also about the educational equipments. So here we have the Faber-Castell and the Canson. The two important foreign branded companies are the Faber-Castell and the Canon company. So other than that we have Parker pens also. So all these belong to the foreign companies that are selling their products in India. Now let us move towards the project oriented question of 4th lesson, that is poverty. The project oriented question of the lesson poverty is like this. Suppose you are a resident of a village, suggest a few measures to tackle the problem of poverty. Here in this question they have asked a serious question of the responsibility of a citizen. That is, if you are a resident of the village, suggest a few measures to tackle the problem of poverty. So India is a developing country and it is not out of the poverty situation till now. Even after more than 70 years of independence, we are still having the problem of poverty, and there are different causes which are contributing to the poverty in our country. So now let us see, the question asks you to suggest some measures to tackle the problem of poverty. So being a responsible citizen of a village, you should suggest that what are all the requirements you have in that rural area to eradicate the problem of poverty. Here the suggestions are like this, that if I am the resident of a rural area, first I should have the active participation in the growth process. So poor should have active involvement in the growth process. So poor should involve themselves actively. So growth process is one which contributes to the rural income as well as to the national income. So for that, these poor people should not stand behind and they should not stay back. So whatever the growth process that can be undertaken in that particular rural area with the available resource, they should actively take part, because they should be optimistic and there is nothing in being pessimistic saying that I don't have opportunity. So they should learn to create one opportunity rather saying that they don't have the opportunity. The second one is rural people should take part in the economic activities. You all know the literacy rate in the rural areas of our country are very low. So they are illiterate and most of them are undereducated because of the lack of the infrastructures like schools, colleges, transportation and communication. Our rural areas are lagging behind in terms of development, because 75% of the Indian population stay in rural areas, and therefore the rural areas should be supported in a strong way with the infrastructural facilities. For that, if the infrastructure facilities facilities are not available, the government and the private sector should provide them, and with the available infrastructure facilities and with the available resources, with their farm products only, they can go for the economic activities, because you know that India is having the agrarian economy. 70% of our population are either directly or indirectly involved with the agricultural and farming activities. So for that, whatever the residues are there, crop residues may be there, agricultural based agro industries are there. So all these waste products of these agro industries can be involved with the economic activities, and by using the waste products of these agro industries and the farms, they can make one more product and sell it. So there are lots of products in the market that are available with the agro based industries, and even they are having a lot of scope in these days for organic farming. So they can go for cultivation through organic farming, because the products that are grown under the method of organic farming have a greater demand. The next one is need to develop the skills of rural people through education. This is very, very important. Today our Prime Minister is saying that we should have Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is self-sustained India. So for that, everyone should develop their own skills. Though they may not have proper education, with their good skills they can go for the excellence. So our skills should be mended and sharpened so that we can have excellence. So this excellence can be seen with the help of the additional education and talent based trainings. So the next one is good health and sanitation facilities should be given to rural areas. That is, the hygienic practices should be involved with the rural people, because the rural people are yet to have their own toilets. Still in India we don't have the good hygienic practices related to the sanitation. People are lagging behind with these facilities, and the open gutters are seen. So the sewage water and recycling of the wastewater should be taught to them, and also about the rainwater harvesting methods also should be taught to them, so that the soil of those areas can rejuvenate the water with the rainwater harvesting system. So all these contribute to the economic growth, and we can eradicate poverty to certain extent. The next one is rural areas should be supported with infrastructures like roads, schools, power and transportation and communication. Roads are included in transportation only. You all know that transportation is the nervous system of a country, wherein the communication is the brain of that country. So since we have adopted this globalization, liberalization, globalization and privatization, today our transportation is very good. The system of transportation in India is very good, and it is as par with the other country, the developed countries. So we are excelling in the area of transportation and communication. Before we adopted the system of liberalization, privatization and globalization, India had only one telecom industry, that is the Indian telephone industries. Today we are being connected through satellites, and our communication system is very good. India is contributing 34% of its GDP to the infrastructural development, because our logistics business is also very active and it is contributing. So with the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, all the remote corners of our country are being connected to the local main roads and to the state highways and the national highways. This is helping them to transport the goods and also helping the people to commute from one place to another for job. So you all know the migration rate of rural people in our country is high. People are migrating towards the cities in search of job and other employment opportunities. So this can be curbed if the transportation, power sector, good quality schools and hospitals are provided to the rural people. 70% of our population are staying in the rural areas, wherein 30% of the hospitals are found in the rural areas. But the population in the urban areas is 30%, and the 70% of the sophisticated hospitals are found in the urban areas. So there is a big difference between these two. So we should provide a good opportunity opportunity for the rural people also to have access towards the good health and sanitation facilities and hospitals. Then the schools here in the rural areas, there are no sophisticated schools. So people in search of the sophisticated schools with good knowledge for their children, they come to the urban areas and they are migrating. So to avoid this, good schools should be established in the rural areas and give good education to the rural people. The last one is creation of employment opportunities at rural areas with the available resources. Today, being having the slogan of Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is the self-sustained India, our Prime Minister and our Financial Minister is contributing a lot for the promotion of the tiny industries, the small scale industries, and also to the rural talents and skills. So today the government is promoting and giving training to the skill based talents for the rural people who with their hierarchical business or the traditional business of producing any of the product. If you go to rural areas, there you can find each and every corner of our country has its own unique product that is generated in the rural areas. So by using these products that are cultivated, that are harvested in that particular area, they can prepare any kind of the other goods also with the byproducts of these farming products. So these are all the things that can be taken care of so that we can eradicate poverty. Apart from this, government is having its own poverty alleviation programs. So along with these poverty alleviation programs of the public sector and as well as the private sector contribution to the poverty eradication, the people can make use of this and they can avail the benefits of these and they can come out of the situation of poverty. As you all know that there is a popular saying which says that if you are born as a poor, it is not your mistake, but if you die as a poor, it is definitely your mistake. So our rural people should be given awareness regarding how to transform their lives. So they should come out of this below poverty line to the above poverty line and they should improve their lives, their standard of living. So for this, the very important measure that the government and the people should take is that they should be actively involved in controlling the population, because our rapid growth in terms of population is a big hindrance for the rural development. Now, after this, let us move towards the 7th lesson, that is employment, and under that there is a project oriented question and we will go through it. Now, let us see about the 7th lesson, that is employment, and in this lesson what is the project oriented question. So like this the question goes on, that is identify the formal and informal workers in the following. So they will ask you 10 professions, 10 jobs, and out of these you have to select which belongs to the formal sector and the informal sector. So you all know in this particular session you have learned in the lessons of this employment, you have learned in detail about the formal sector and informal sector. Formal sector employees are those who have the social security benefits and their job is guaranteed and secured. The informal sector people are those who are not having the job guarantee and their jobs are not secured. So the informal sector employees are not organized as the organized or formal sector employees. So the job security is very less here, and also there is no permanent job or permanent employment facility in the case of informal sector. More of the Indian population is working under the informal sector rather the formal sector, because no government in our country, no state government or the central government can provide job for all the population. So therefore people are going for the private sector, and some of the jobs in the private sector belong to the informal sector. So now let us segregate these jobs or professions into formal or informal. The first one is a petty shop owner. Everywhere in our country we can see a petty shop. So the one who is the owner of that or one who is running this petty shop is not having any kind of job guarantee or income guarantee. So he is not assured with the guaranteed income. Therefore it is a informal sector. So the petty shop owner belongs to the informal sector. Next one is SBI cashier. Here SBI is State Bank of India, which is the nationalized bank of our country. This is the major bank of India. So the country of India is now having the motive of having one bank, one country, one country, one bank motive. SBI is the leader of the banks. So therefore SBI cashier job is a guaranteed job and his income is a guaranteed one. So he is in the formal sector. SBI cashier is working in the formal sector. Next one is government hospital nurse. The word itself says government. So she or he belongs to government sector. Government sector, all the government sectors belong to formal sector because the income and jobs are guaranteed here. The next one is tailor. So tailor is again a member of the informal sector because for them there is no guaranteed income per month and their jobs are not secured. Even though it is organized, but their life is not as safe and secured than the other sectors. So here we have the informal sector job in the name of tailor. So here the tailor belongs to the informal sector. The next one is police. Police is a part of the administration of any government. So he is a part of the formal sector. The next one is handloom weaver. Handloom weaver is again a private sector person. He is not working for the government and his income and his marketing, his sales are not guaranteed. So his job is also again insecured and he is in the insecurity sector, that is the informal sector. Now let us see the street vendor. Everywhere you can see the street vendors who are selling vegetables or any of the products. So all the consumer products are available with the street vendors, and these street vendors job is not a guaranteed one. Each day they come out of their home to sell the products, but their income is not guaranteed because their sales is also not guaranteed. So they may go without any income on any of the day. So therefore they also belong to the informal sector. The eighth one is government primary school teacher. The teacher may be belonging to the government primary school or government high school or to the PU college or to the degree colleges. By the name itself you can understand he belongs to government sector. So whoever is working for government sector is known as the formal sector employees. So any government job is belonging to the formal sector. The next one is revenue inspector. Revenue inspector is one who is working for the revenue department of a government. Maybe it is for the state government or central government. So a revenue inspector is a part of the state administration. So he belongs to the government sector. So all the jobs of government sector belong to formal sector. The last one is agricultural laborer. Agricultural laborer is the one who feeds food to the total population, but still he is in the informal sector because he is one who is working with seasonal employment opportunities. All the 12 months he is not having job because agriculture belongs to seasonal employment section. So here agricultural laborers are not having guaranteed income as the government employees are guaranteed with their salaries. They can earn money or they may not have money for some of the periods. So here they are not a formal sector employees because they don't have job security and their income is also not guaranteed. So agricultural labor belongs to informal sector. So this is the project oriented question of 7th lesson, that is employment. Now after this let us discuss about the project oriented question of the 8th lesson, that is infrastructure. Here in this 8th lesson, that is the infrastructure, they have asked you to name 10 power generating stations in Karnataka. So here you have to mention the 10 power generating stations. Infrastructure, under the infrastructure, power is the major infrastructure that improves the economy of any country. So it contributes to the economical growth and development. For that we are having different types of power generation activities. They belong to thermal power projects or hydel power projects and even the atomic power projects. So they have asked you to mention 10 power generation sectors and power generating stations in Karnataka, and so now let us write about them. The 10 power generating stations in Karnataka are as follows, that is the first one is Raichur Thermal Power Plant. So this Raichur Thermal Power Plant is one which produces the power through thermal energy. So it is located at Shaktinagar near Raichur. The next one is Yeramaras Thermal Power Plant which is located near Yeganur at Raichur. The next one is Bellari Kudatini Power Plant. The fourth one is Kudigi, that is at Vijaypur district Thermal Power Plant. And the fifth one is Shivanasamudra Hydel Power Plant. And sixth one is Shimsha Hydel Power Plant which is located at Malvalli Taluk of Mandya district. Then Sharavati, that is the Jog Falls Power Plant. You can find the hydro electricity generation at the Jog Falls. And the next one is Alamatti Power Plant, that is for the Krishna River, and the Bhadra Power Plant which is there for the Tungabhadra River, and from the Tungabhadra River they have the power generation activities, that is through hydel power. The next one is Kaiga Atomic Power Plant at Karwar. So here we have the atomic power plant generation activity also undertaken at Kaiga. So here apart from this there are lots of other thermal power plants and also the hydel power plants. So since they have asked only 10 power generating stations, we have written here only 10. So if you answer any of these questions, 5 marks are guaranteed. So with this you can easily score 10 marks through your project oriented questions of part E of first PUC economics question paper. I wish to end up today's session with a thought. The thought for today is, if wealth is lost, nothing is lost. If health is lost, something is lost. And if character is lost, everything is lost. So this is a very good message for every one of us. The character forms a very good strong base in the personality development of any person, because wealth may not have lifetime validity. Character is the one which has lifetime validity. So character building should be the goal of every person, and if wealth is lost, we can re-earn it. So we can work hard and we can cope up that loss. If health is lost, something is lost. If we take care of our health, we can rejuvenate our health with our practices. But if character is lost, we cannot get it back. So when that character is lost, everything is lost, because the good name is forever. If once that good name is erased and a bad name, if a bad name is adjoined to the person's name as an adjective, then everything is lost. How far he may change himself in the future, whatever he lost in terms of character in the past will remain the same. So in Kannada there is a popular saying, Adikege hoda mana aane kottaru baradu. So here we should take care of the maintenance of our character, and we should always be vigilant towards it. So with this I conclude today's session. Thank you.